Hey everyone, it's Keeley here for Soy and Shea, and thank you so much for joining me for today's video where we're going to go and start making the Christmas soaps for 2025. The first one we're going to go and make is Mrs Claus's cookies, and first up I'm going to show you how I make the little gnome to go on the top of this soap. Let's go. I've already been busy making these. You can see I have just one more to make, so I'm going to take you along and show you how I make my Mrs Claus with her little cookie there, and we will get started first up on that cookie, just because if I do this one first, all the other parts dry out. So what I'm going to do is just break off a smallish piece of a gold soap dough here. I'm just going to roll it into a ball. It's probably actually a bit big. Let's break that off. Roll it into a ball, and then I'm just going to kind of squish it and get it into like a cookie shape, like so. Right, because that cookie's kind of got a bit lost on there, we'll pop it onto the pink cutter so you can see what I'm doing. I have a bit of dark brown soap dough here, and we literally need the tiniest amount of this. And what I find it easiest to do is to roll this out until you get that really thin end. In fact, it could be just a little bit thinner. Then I'm going to take my skewer, we'll take the sharp pointy end, and I literally break off. I don't even know if you can see how much I've broken off. It is so tiny, the amount. And then I'm just going to give it a bit of a roll as best as I can between my fingers until I got that tiny little ball. And then I sit it on top of my cookie and then just squish it in. And as you can see, we're making little chopped chip cookies for Mrs Claus to hold. There's kind of like that real fine balance of getting such a small amount that it just disintegrates and disappears in your fingers, and getting just that right small amount to create those little cookie drops there. So let's grab that one, and that's our final one. I'm just going to put 3 on there, and I kind of make sure I've got a bit of a gap down in this bit, and you'll see why when it comes to making our Mrs Claus. But there's her little cookie all made. So the next bit I'm going to make is the hair, and I've got one of the clay extruder tools with lots of little holes in the bottom. It's one of the discs that actually come with the extruder tool, and I'm just going to squeeze out an amount of white. Now I won't be needing all of this. I'll just grab my knife there because I'm only making one, but we'll just cut that off. And what I want are 3 strands out of here. So we'll just grab our 3 like that. And as I've done with others like my witches and things, all I'm going to do is give it a bit of a twist just to give it a sort of faux plaited look there. Now you don't want to go too tight because you will break that soap dough, but just tight enough that it actually holds together. And I'm going to cut these down into about 1 centimetre lengths like so, and that's going to be the hair. Now from this that I've taken out, I'm just going to break off a small amount, and that's going to be the little bobble to go on the top of her hat. So I'm going to roll that out, and what I find easiest is to put just a little hole into the bottom of it. It just makes it easier to attach to the hat at the end. So I'll pop that over there along with the bits of hair there. Next we're going to make the nose and hand. So I've got my flesh coloured soap dough here. I'm going to pull off a piece first of all for the nose. It's probably a bit big. And then I'm going to roll that one into a ball. And it's once it actually gets into that ball shape, I can actually make a decision upon whether that's going to be the right size or not. I actually do feel that's still a little bit big for her nose. So let's break that down, and that's looking much better. And then I also want a piece. Now I'm only doing 1 hand. Normally I do 2, but on this little one, I'm only doing the 1 hand. So I've got a smaller piece like so. Now to do the rim of the hat, I cheated on this one. I got my clay extruder tool, put some white in, and we've just got a single circle in this one. And I'm just gonna squeeze some of that soap dough out. We've been making so many of these little gnomes for Christmas. I just felt that was gonna be the quickest and easiest way to get my, my little hats going. I've got my trusty little scales here, and I'm gonna grab some red out of here. turn them on. The first bit I'm going to break off is a bit for the arms, and I'm heading for something between 0.4 and 0.5 of a gram, so that's perfect. And then for the body, I'm actually only making these to be 5 grams. Normally I make my little gnomes at 6, but because she's got the cookie and everything else, I've just brought it down to that sort of 5 gram amount. All right, so for the body, we're going to roll it up. I like to start in a ball, and then as I do with all of them, I then roll it out into the cone shape. And for my little Mrs Claus, I'm headed for quite a pointy cone shape on this one. I did try to make them flat because normally Mrs Claus has like a flat hat, but when I did it, they looked like sunburned little minions. So I decided not to go with the flat cap and just went with that traditional pointed, and I've just tipped her hat over a little bit, and then we're going to grab that other small piece of red. We're going to roll it out into a bit of a sausage shape, and that will be the arms, and then we'll start putting it together because we've got all the bits there. I'm going to cut that one in half. All right, so now that we've got all of our bits together, she's really simple to put together. We're going to start with the hair, and you surprisingly actually want them quite close to the center. Most people try and put them out to the side, but you actually need them quite close to the center here to make them look good. So we're going to put the 2 bits of hair on. I'm squishing the top but not the bottom, so we keep that shape. Next I'm going to grab the nose, and I find it best to put the nose so it's just below the top of the hair, and it really helps when it comes to putting the band of the hat on. I'm going to grab one of our arms, and I'm going to squish that on, smooth it into the soap so it stays. And for now, I'm just going to leave that one kind of sitting up. I'm going to grab the other arm, and again, I'm kind of squishing it and smoothing it into the back of that soap so it stays well. And this arm, I'm actually going to push down on top of the hair, push it flat. Now, I've got just a little bit of water on a paintbrush. Normally I don't have to do this, but because of the size of my little cookie, I just find it best to put a bit of water. Now this is where I've left that little gap. What I'm going to do is make sure that gap is near where her hand is. We'll push the cookie in, push that arm down, and pop a little hand on there, and then that way we don't hide any of the little chocolate drops that we've put on there. I'm going to grab that thin piece of white, and starting at the back, and then I'm just wrapping it around, making sure to cover like the seams of the hair, come up and over the nose. And I do try and cover a bit of the seam of the arms with my hat band as well. And when I get around to the back, I then just smooth it in so it's really hard to tell where that hat starts and finishes. And then finally, I'm just going to pop the little top onto her hat like so. And that is it. I now have all 18 of my Mrs Claus done up, and it's time to go and make the soap. All right, so we've got all of our embeds now done up, and I also made a whole load of little choc chip cookies to go onto the top of the soap. So let's get on with making this. I've got my oil and lye water to room temperature. Going to pour that in there. We'll give it a mix, and then we're going to split it up for a few colours. Alright, so I know these are not going to be very traditional colours, but we're doing cookies. So we're going to go with a bit of a earthy palette. We have got some titanium dioxide in some water there. I have some mocha mica, which will represent the chocolate drops. I then have lots of drips. In this pot I have some bronze sparks, and that's going to kind of represent that maple syrup sort of smell that is in here. And then for my main base, I'm going to go with Grandeur Gold, just to give it that sort of lighter cookie color. And I'm really hoping that my fragrance oil is listed correctly and is going to play nicely. It reckons it has 0.4% vanillin. I can't talk today, goodness gracious. It does say 0.4%. We're going to be using maple cookie. It's not particularly dark, so hopefully they have got that correct. So I'm just getting all that gold mica off there so we can mix our white up. So I'm hoping it is going to be, words just went out of my head completely. Today may not be the day for videoing. I'm hoping that it is going to behave nicely. It's got a bit of a yellow tinge to it, but hoping that they've got it right at 0.4% and we're not going to end up with a really, really dark brown soap. If you saw my espresso martini soap, you would have heard me say on that fragrance oil had 15% vanillin and it didn't change colour. So I'm really hoping that this one behaves. Anyway, let's get these colours mixed. Right, now I'm not going to add the fragrance into the white, just in case. I also don't know how this fragrance is going to behave, so let's just hope it plays nicely. Whenever I mix my colours in with the stick blender, I only ever give it a really quick pulse just to start getting that blending process going. I just find it mixes in a lot better with the stick blender, but I only give it a quick pulse just in case the fragrance oil does anything too funky, and then that gives us that time that is needed to then actually stick blend fragrance through if it goes ricey and things like that. But this one, oh gosh, I did make this fragrance up in a candle and I was not a fan because I don't like sweet scents, but in this soap, oh, I've just got this massive blast of maple smell. It's smelling so good. I think this one may be a bit of a hit, and hopefully, as I said, it won't discolor. Let's get that fragrance mixed in there, and then I'm just going to go for a very simple in the mold swirl with this one. We've got enough sort of embellishment going on at the top. All right, let's grab our mold here. This is playing super nice. It is staying so fluid compared to some of the other sort of biscuity smell ones I've used in the past. Oh, this is lovely. All right, let's just do this swirl. We may end up with a few little curly whirlies with this one because it is playing so nicely. And scrape most of it out. Maybe save a little bit for the back, for the top. In fact, no, I won't, because yes, I will. It's going to be one of these days, isn't it? An indecisive soap day, which is not good because this is the first of 4 Christmas soaps I am going to be making today. I will be keeping a fair bit more of the white back because I really want my little cookies to stand out on the top of the soap, and they're just not going to do that on top of that goldy colour, considering it's a very similar colour to what I made my cookies with. Putting just enough white in there. Let's grab the rest of the bucket and see if we can get some curly whirlies happening in here. Oh, we might do. Oh, that is so fluid. Very, very fluid. But we need to just pick that up a little bit. Push it down the other end. And I'm going to get this bucket scraped out and in here. All right, so what we might do is I'm going to pour my white across the top just to make sure I've got enough for my cookies to sit on here, because as I said, they're not going to show up on that light gold. So let's get that going. I probably saved back a little bit too much white, but oh well. Might just pour a good chunk of it down the middle, which is where Mrs Claus will sit, so that will actually hide that. All right, and then we'll just kind of dollop these other colours in between. We'll get a bit of a chopstick swirl going across it. And then we'll be almost ready to put our little Mrs Claus on the top. All right, let's give that a bit of a swirl to make it look just a little bit prettier. All right, so now it's time for me to put my markings on the top of the soap, so I know where to put my Mrs Claus on here to make sure that we don't accidentally cut any part of it. Just using my stainless steel ruler, and I've actually got my cut lines from my cutter burned onto the edges of my mold here, so I'm just lining up those lines so I know where to go. Can't believe how fluid this fragrance oil was, and if this really does behave in terms of color discoloration and things like that, this might be the new fragrance that I use for my little gingers each year. Currently I use another one which has got that sort of cinnamon base in it. I've been using it for a couple of years now because it always smells so good, but it does move very quickly, making it quite hard to pour really nice little ginger soaps. But if this one is going to play nicely and not discolor, we might be swapping it to this scent instead. But, oh, that was not what I was going to do. Oh no! I decided when I was swirling it, I was going to actually pop it just off to the side like so. So let's get all of these little gnomes on. So the idea will be we will have our little Mrs Claus on there, and then I'm just going to put one and go two and grab a third little cookie, just making a little pile of them like so. I'll be able to give you a closer look once I've got them all on, but for now I'm just going to get all my little Santas and cookies on, and then I'll bring you in for a closer look once they are all on top of the soap. There it is, Mrs Claus's cookies is in the mold, and I am so super happy with it. It has really come up better than I initially planned. When I first decided to make this soap, I was just going to make the gnome with holding the little cookie, and making all these extra little cookies was like a real last minute decision thing to do, and I quickly made all of them up. And I'm really pleased that I did, because they just look so super cute. We're going to leave this one sit overnight. We'll be back in just a moment and we'll take a look at what swirls we have on the inside. All right, we are ready to cut into Mrs Claus's cookies, and it is smelling absolutely wonderful. Really pleased to say that this did not discolor overnight, so that gives me hope that it might play nicely. If you do want to know what this fragrance does over the next 4 weeks, make sure you are following along on socials, because I will be showing pictures of it at the end of its cure. Let's get rid of this piece. Oh, I can actually see we might end up with just a slight discoloration on this one, but that's okay. I think it will still go a really nice cookie color. Now I'm going to need my cloth just so I can get those little bits off and it doesn't drag into the top of my soap. And let's start cutting. So I'm kind of using the marks that I put on the top of my soap, and I've also got my guide down here. Oh, and that is the inside of Mrs Claus's cookies. You can kind of see it is a little bit darker around the outside there, so I think that is the sort of color that we're going to end up with, but I'm not going to be cross or angry about that because it still looks like a really nice cookie color there. But as I said, if you follow along on social media, I will be posting final pictures of this one once it has cured. There'll be the photos that go up onto the website, and there is usually also a picture of it on the cover photo for the video. Let's tape that one. So I've got some beautiful gentle swirls through here, and that's exactly what I wanted. I wanted the inside to be a little bit more calm. Even though I wanted those swirls, I didn't want it to be too busy because of all the detail that we've got there on the top with Mrs Claus and her little cookies all there. Absolutely love it. It smells absolutely amazing too. Usually when you use these sort of bakery scents, they don't hold very well in soap, especially things like coffee, caramel, chocolate, all of those. They just don't hold very well, which is such a shame. But this one is smelling so good. So I'm thinking, depending upon how much it discolors, this might be, as of next year, the new ginger scent that goes out in my little ginger soaps each year. But let's get a couple more of these cut. I'm not going to do the whole lot on film because it's going to take me forever to cut them all. But I absolutely love the swirls that have come up inside of here. She just looks so sweet sitting on the top. So that is the first of my Christmas soaps that I have on offer in 2025, and they will be available from the first week of November. I will probably have to put, when I'm editing the video, the actual release date down the bottom there. If anyone is in Australia and is wanting to get their hands on the Christmas soaps this year, let's cut through. And these little gnome soaps always sell super fast. And there is another one. So I hope you've enjoyed coming along with me as I made Mrs Claus's cookies. If you did, why not leave me a thumbs up and any comments down below. And until the next video comes out, I hope you have a good one, and I'll see you then. Bye.